pre-calc, the secant, what we're going to be talking about is if I had a function, it looks something like this, and from here, my x1 value to here, my x2 value, if I drew a line between those 2 points on the curve, this is my secant. So that's my secant. And the length of that line and the slope of that line is what we're going to use the formula of average rate of change for. Okay, so the average rate of change in our book says let x1 comma f of x1, so our input-output are ordered pair, and x2, f of x2 be two distinct points. So the ordered pair, we're going to pick two different points on a line. So we might pick P and we might pick Q. So this would correlate to our x1 and this would correlate to our x2. And then our y, or our f of x, are outputs. So this correlates to f of x1 and this one correlates to f of x2. Okay, so our formula is, for the average rate of change, average rate of change is f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1, x1, which is really like the slope formula. Your slope formula is a change in y's over the change in x. So we're basically using the slope formula and we're just putting it in terms of a function. So because this is not a line, the black function is not a line, so we can't find the slope of the entire thing. But we can find the slope of a line that intersects the function, and P and Q are 2 points intersect the function. We can find the slope of that line. So we need to find the change in y over the change in x. And this is a good time to learn the formula too, because we're still sort of beefing up our algebra skills and practicing using formulas and evaluating functions. So let's do an example. So if I was given the function f of x equals x to the fourth, and we wanted to find the average rate of change, we're going to be given an interval. So we're going to be told our x1 and our x2. So like this one was just a generic p and q, but we're going to be told that our x1 really is -1 and our x2 is 0. So that's our interval. We're going from -1 to 0, and what we're calculating is the slope. How much did it change from that beginning part of the interval to the latter part of the interval? So I'm going to use my formula, f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. So in this case, f of x2, so that's x0. So when x equals 0 and I plug it into this function, so f of 0 minus f of x1, and my x1 is -1, minus f of -1, all over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is -1. So if I plug 0 into the function, 0 to the fourth is 0. And f of -1, so -1 to the fourth power is 1. 0 is still in the denominator, minus -1 is really +1, so that's over 1. So then if I simplify further, I've got -1 over 1, which is just -1. So what does that mean? That means that my average rate of change on the interval from -1 to 0 for the function x to the fourth is -1. It decreased at a slope of -1. Just be careful, it doesn't mean that the slope of x to the fourth is -1, it just means that line between the interval. So the average change was -1. All right, let's get cranking here. So now we've got example 2, f of x is x squared. So we're going to find the average rate of change. So f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. Substitute in, so we've got f of 2, this time it's from 0 to 2, so f of 2 minus f of 0 over 2 minus 0. So f of 2, plug it in, that's 4, 2 squared is 4, 0 squared is 0, 2 minus 0 is 2, this is 4 over 2, which equals 2. That means the average rate of change is 2. So there's a couple practice problems.